From the Media Broadcasting Center.
This is Jim Fetzer, your host, for a highly unusual first hour of The Real Deal, where I have been induced by two individuals I've come to know and respect, Sophia Smallstorm on the one hand, David Weiss on the other, who believe that there are reasons for taking the idea that the earth is flat seriously. Having a PhD in the history and the philosophy of science, where the history of science is dominated by the history of astronomy and physics, I have been highly skeptical of this proposition. However, at their request, I am featuring David Weiss this evening, who has a podcast, Further in the Rabbit Hole, and a second now with Mike Adams' new network, Truth is Stranger Than Lies. And he is going to make a presentation for the first half, and then I will make comments of my own thereafter. David, welcome to The Real Deal.
Jim, thanks for having me. The podcast is deep inside the rabbit hole, and it's Truth is Stranger Than Lies on talknetwork.com. But thank you. Perfect,
David. Well, let me turn it over. You got a lot of ground you want to cover, so go right ahead.
Jim, I just want to say that I respect you. You are the bulldog of truth. You are relentless. You are able to hold so many facts in your head and regurgitate them effectively. And I'm impressed by that. We don't agree on some things. I get a lot of heat for having this debate with you because of your views on 9/11 that we disagree upon. But that doesn't change this conversation, and that's a conversation for another day if you ever wanted to have it. I want to congratulate you on your book that got banned on Amazon. George Orwell would be very impressed about Sandy Hook. And I actually think that this, the flat earth, kind of relates to the Sandy Hook story a little bit, as the information is compiled by numerous people that all collectively bring the information together, and then different people repackage it, add their own content, and then redistribute it and help get the truth out. So with that said, I want to make one more analogy. Adam Lanza is a lot like the gravitron. Gravitron, am I saying that right? He is only a theory. He's never been seen, and he does almost impossible things. Jim, one quick question. You don't believe that we went to the moon and then NASA faked it? Is that true?
Yes, that's true. There's overwhelming evidence we did not go to the moon. We didn't have the propulsive power. We didn't have the broadcast power back from the moon. It appears to have been elaborately staged for political purposes.
So with that, that brings you halfway to the argument that I'm making. The question is, why did they fake it? And we're going to get into that in my presentation, which I'm going to speak very fast. I'm going to go through a bunch of slides quickly and get it done in the proper amount of time. You have an opportunity here to demonstrate your incredible deductive reasoning skills that you have done many times in the past, and get out ahead of the packs of intellectuals such as yourself with what is without question the biggest deception of all time. So with that said, I want you to just clear your head of any preconceived notions of what the flat earth is, and hear the information and think logically, and then we can see what happens from there. So Chance, if you want to bring up the first slide. The flat earth is an endless plane, or a plane that goes on for an incredible amount of distance. It's frozen and parked in a circular orbit around a magnetic center is a capacitor. We'll call that the sun. So you're looking at this picture here. This is just like a puddle in the ice sheet, and the sun rotates around the center, and that creates the world that we know. Antarctica is not a continent on the bottom of a ball, but rather the ring that surrounds the planet. Next slide, please. The next slide, people ask, how do you circumnavigate people have circumnavigated the globe. Well, if you go west, you will go keeping north, the magnetic north to your right, equidistant, you'll just make a big flat circle. Next slide. And then if you go east, In the other direction, same thing. North is always to your center. The inner northern hemisphere is the center, and the outer southern hemisphere is the southern part of the world. Next, if you go any direction away from north, you're going south. You'll hit the ice wall, and if you are able to get over it without one of the 40 nations that have a treaty that won't allow you to go there, you'll just keep continuing over the ice sheet and never return. Next, these three lines here, the red is the equator, the orange is the Tropic of Cancer, and the yellow is the Tropic of Capricorn. The sun circles around, making tighter circles in our summer, and then it goes to the yellow line in Australia's summer, making faster, wider circles. Continue to the next. Here is a picture of Australia's summer. Our winter, this is December 21st. The sun is making the big outer loop. Next. And then the next one is the northern inner hemisphere's summer, June 21st. It's nice and tight. We have some very long days, midnight sun in the North Pole, which we'll get to soon. Next. This is just an illustration of the sun. Lighting up part of the world. Everybody says, well, it would be light all the time, on the earth. Well, that's because we believe that sunlight will travel for billions and trillions of miles, but that's not true at all. It goes a very short distance before it peters out, the wavelengths separate, the colors change, and it disappears. So this is a rough illustration of that. Next, this is just an illustration of, next slide. There you go. Is an illustration of how a ship would go around the world. It's like walking around your neighborhood. You're not going around a sphere. You're making a big flat, circle, or as close to a circle as you can get. Next, if you go south, you'll eventually hit the Antarctic ice wall, which surrounds the entire flat Earth. Next, this is the ice sheet. South is across the top of that sheet, and it just keeps on going and going and going. Next, you can consider go back one. You can consider this the meniscus of the melted puddle that holds all of the water in. Now we go to the next one. We've had one shot of the Earth, I think, since 1970 something or whatever the Apollo shot was, and then we recently got this new shot of the Earth, the big blue marble. It's on every iPhone. It's in every movie. And this was taken with NASA's new camera. Go ahead, next slide, called the DSCVR. And it's taken by the Earth Polychromatic Imaging Camera, the EPIC. And if you put that together, they're laughing in our faces. It's the EPIC Deceiver. Next. If you take a look at the picture that they're showing us, you'll see, if you zoom in, that it's a complete Photoshop, not even Photoshopped, it's a painting. And they used, to put the clouds in, they used Photoshop, and they stepped and repeated. They're very lazy at NASA. I guess they don't know what to do with all the trillions of dollars they stole from us, and they hire really crappy graphic artists. Next, every picture we've seen of a planet, these are two pictures of Earth from NASA. I think they're like 30 years apart or whenever they were taken, and they can't even get the proportions right on the planets. This is supposedly a picture of the Earth from space, and the United States is twice the size in one. Next. Every picture we have from NASA of a planet is a artist rendering. They're not real pictures. If you take a strong telescope and look at a planet, it looks nothing like this. It looks like a self-illuminating light. It looks more like a star. They used to call planets wandering stars. Next, Saturn, I've looked at myself through high-power telescopes, and it really looks like a light bulb. It doesn't look like it's reflecting light. The rings are lit up. There's none of these colors on there. And these are just artist renderings. And if you believe that they're real, you're just sadly mistaken. Next, we recently had Pluto, pictures of Pluto. The one kind of center bottom is the most recent one. And that was taken by a probe that was whizzing by Pluto. Pluto's spinning. There's barely any light out there. And it gets this perfect, brightly lit, crisp, clear image of Pluto and transmits it all the way back to Earth, where we can barely get cell phone signals, when you go out of town. Go to the next one. And if you look at it, again, Disney style, they show us this ridiculous picture, and Pluto is actually on the moon. I mean, on Pluto. They're literally laughing at us. Next, a lot of ball earthers say that the eclipse of the moon proves that the Earth is round because it's a curved shadow. To me, that doesn't look like much of a curved shadow. There's been many documented eclipses where the sun and the moon are above the horizon during the eclipse. The moon is self-illuminating, and it is not a big rock up in space. As a matter of fact, it's transparent. Next, if you look at this shot at night, the craters, or the dark spots, I like to call them, are black because it's in our sky and there's black sky behind it. Next, if you look at the full moon during the day, those spots are now blue because we are seeing through whatever the moon is. And to prove that, go to the next one. We have a crescent moon, and behind the moon was a planet. And when you zoom in, you can see the planet through the moon. And this shot was proven that there was a planet in that position, and you could see it behind the moon. And there's many people that have photographed this many times. Next, one of the first things that woke me up to the flat Earth was that no matter where you are, at sea level, at the top of Mount Everest, top of a building, or in an airplane, the horizon is always at eye level. It's always at eye level. And on a ball Earth, like on the left, as you rise up, the horizon should drop off, but that's not what we see. We always see the horizon at eye level. Next, here's a little exaggerated picture of what it looks like from an airplane. The horizon not only should drop off in front of you, but it should drop off more visibly to the left and to the right. And the equation for that is 8 inches per mile squared. So as you get up over 100 miles, the drop is drastic. Next. This is a shot from 20 miles up from a hot air balloon, or a helium balloon. The horizon is flat, and Google Earth says at the same height, this is what the Earth looks like, and they're just faking it. That's not what the Earth looks like, because there's a picture of what the Earth looks like. Next, here's a shot of Dubai. I believe it's Dubai. If you look in the horizon is at eye level from the elevation that they're at, and it is flat. Next, another shot showing just a straight flat horizon. Next, this is what this is a shot that they'll show us just from a tower. This is not even this is obviously a fisheye lens, which bends the Earth. If the Earth had this kind of curve to it, it would be very, very small. Next, here's a shot. I believe it's the top of Mount Everest, flat horizon once again. And look at that sun. Does that look 93 million miles away? That sun is close. It's within our sky, and we'll get more into that in a moment. But some people will look at this picture, they'll put a straight edge on it, and they'll say, look, it's a little bowing out, and it looks like a circle, but again, it's a flat circle. Next picture. This is my dining room table. It is not a ball. It's a flat circle. And that's how we see. We see the same distance to the vanishing point in all directions. So when you look to the left at 9 o'clock, you see X distance to 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, X distance. You draw a line, connect all those distances. You're drawing a big flat circle, and that's what you're seeing. But our programming tells us it's a ball. Next. Here's just a few more shots. We have a balloon. Again, look how close the sun looks. Cruising altitude about 5 miles up, sea level, flat, straight horizon. Next, here's a shot with a level, and you're looking across the level. Your eyes are level with the level, and there is the water. Straight, does not bear off, does not fold over backwards. Water is level. Next. Again, another shot, impossible if the Earth is a ball. Continue. Here is the famous Felix Baumgarten Red Bull jump, and everyone uses this as proof that it's a ball. When he opened the door and you looked out, there was a straight shot across. It was only a little bit of the horizon, but it did not look curved like this. But if you can argue that all day because it was only a little bit, and some people might say there's a curve. But below him is New Mexico. The last time I looked, New Mexico did not cover a third of the planet. This is a low altitude shot with a fisheye lens. Next, this is a shot from the dog cam, which is 110,000 feet, just slightly lower than the Felix's shot. And again, the horizon is flat, straight, and the sun is very close. Next, here again, check out the sun. The sun is very close within our sky, and notice the hot spot, the reflection on the Earth. Straight horizon. Next. We'll talk about the vanishing point a little bit. These lines are parallel the way we see. They don't look parallel here, but if you flick to the next one, these are the corners of the hallway, and they rush to the point of convergence or the vanishing point. And that's how our eyes see. Everything rushes in from the sides, the top and the bottom, to our point of focus. And that's the vanishing point. The sky has no bumps on it. The sky is smooth, but the earth has bumps on it. It has mountains, it has trees, it has cars, people, waves. Anything that comes across the flat plane that even rises up a little bit will create a false horizon in front of that vanishing point. So if you look at the light on the ceiling and imagine that's the sun, the sun's not getting any closer to the floor, but it is going down. And if you had some bumps in the hallway or some people standing down the hallway, the sun would disappear, that light would disappear behind their heads from the bottom up, just like we observe on this plane. Next, here's just a shot across the flat plane, how everything goes to the convergence point. Next, here's a shot, a slide I made, where the point of convergence, the vanishing point, is behind that mountain. And that mountain is creating a false horizon. So as the sun moves into the distance, it gets smaller and smaller, remaining the same height above the flat plane, and then it disappears from the bottom up as it disappears behind the false horizon. Next. This is an experiment that was done years ago. It's called the Bedford Level Experiment. It's a canal in England that's 66 miles straight. A guy put a camera just inches above the water. He got a rowboat with a little flag, and he put the camera on the flag, rowed all the way down to the end, and he could see the flag the whole time when there should be 24 feet of curvature according to spherical geometry. 24 feet of curvature. There wasn't any curvature at all. And that's just 6 miles. Next. This is the picture in the background is from Time and Day, the website. And then the picture from the front is the blue marble. Where's Europe? Where's Australia? In this picture, it shows Australia is in the light at the same orientation that this picture is, but it's really on the other side of the planet. So the reason that it spreads out like that is because the southern hemisphere is not a ball. It's not rounded like the same as the upper northern hemisphere. It's the outer, flat, stretched out southern hemiplane. I'm going to stop using the word hemisphere because that leads you to a ball mentality. Next, the Statue of Liberty. Everyone's familiar with that. It's visible from 60 miles away. That's over 2,000 feet of curvature, but you can see it on a clear day. Next, this is a lighthouse. 180 feet tall. It should be 996 feet below the curve of the earth, but boats can see it from 42 miles out. Next, this is a series of islands that can be seen. I believe the one on the left is 125 miles away. That's almost 2 miles of curvature, but it can be seen out across the flat level ocean. Water does not bend, it's flat. Next, this is the Great Salt Flat. It's 90 miles wide, and it's perfectly level. It only varies by a couple of feet from end to end, and it should be over a mile of curvature from end to end, and it's flat. You know, if you have a strong enough telescope on a clear day, you can see somebody standing on the far end. Impossible on a ball Earth. Next. We're told that the sun is 93 million miles away. If you look at the top of the picture, and all of the rays come into the sun from edge to edge to the equator to the center at the same angle, and they're straight rays. And that is how, next slide, that Aristophanes determined the size of the globe, where he said, okay, he took one stick. The sun, it has no shadow. He knew how far the other stick was. The rays are coming in parallel. He measured the shadow. He did some simple math. And he said, oh, the Earth is a ball. This proves it. Next slide. But unfortunately, you can get the same exact results if the sun is about 3,000 miles away, just about out of the frame there, and about 30 miles across. And on a flat Earth, you can get the exact same results with the shadow on one and no shadow on the other. Next. There's many times where you see these rays coming through the sun. I think they're called, I'm going to butcher the word, perspicular rays or whatever. You can laugh at me. These rays are splaying out because the sun is not that high. And if it was 93 million miles away, those rays would be straight. Go to the next one. Here's a clearer picture of those rays spreading out, and also a picture of a streetlight behind a tree, creating the same rays. We know that the streetlight is very close, and so is the sun. Next, here's an experiment. I believe the YouTube name is P-Brain, but if it's somebody else, I apologize. He created a fake cloud, which is a cardboard with holes in it, put a light right over it, and it created those same splayed out rays. Then he brought it outside, and with the sun being high enough for this model, the rays were straight because it was far away. This proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the sun is close and within our sky. Next. Here's a shot from the dog cam again. Does that sun look 93 million miles away? No, it's not. It's local. And every time we send a balloon up to these high altitudes, the sun is never over the balloon. It's always off to the side because the angle of the sun changes because the distance is greatly reduced, or the percentage of the distance. And if you look right below the sign there, there's a hot spot on the clouds from the sun. That could never happen if the sun was 93 million miles away. It can only happen when the light source is very close. Next, this is there it is again, just with the sun out of the picture. The hot spot, the sun is not much higher above the clouds, whether it's 1,000 miles, a couple thousand miles, or a couple hundred miles. I don't know the answer to that. Next. Here is the sun on the top one. It's 93 million miles away, and then it rotates. The Earth moves 3,000 miles, barely any difference, and it's that much bigger. You shouldn't see any difference in the size if the sun was 93 million miles away. This is 3,000 miles makes the sun much, much closer percentage-wise, and that's why you see a difference in the size of the sun. Next, here's from the time lapse in Africa. This is the first shot of the sun going away, and then we go to the next shot, and look how small it is. The sun's rays, the light is barely getting to us. The sun is getting smaller, and that is because it's going into the distance, and soon it's going to hit the vanishing point or the false horizon from the bumps on the land, and it's going to disappear and set. Next. This is a flight that recently went from Bali to LAX, and it was halfway to Hawaii. You can see Hawaii along the line there. When a woman went into labor and they had to make an emergency landing, the pilot could have turned around, which didn't make sense. He could have stopped in Hawaii, or he could have continued to LAX. Those are the best three options. But instead, next slide, he decided to go to Alaska. Now, why would he do that? It makes no sense at all. Next slide. And the reason is because on a flat Earth, it's a straight line. The plane on that line is in Alaska. Hawaii is way off to the right, and LAX is is farther ahead. So Alaska is the way to go. If you track packages around the world that are going to that side of the world, they all go through Alaska, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever on a ball Earth. Next, recently a pilot filmed a flight with a camera out the window that left LAX and went to Frankfurt, Germany. It went over, close to the pole, up the polar route, they call it, I guess. The sun was to the west. It was late afternoon. Go to the next slide. And the entire flight, you can see sunlight. If you look at the little map on the right, the sun is way off. It should be on the other side of the planet. It should be 5,000 miles or more over the horizon. But you can see the sun the entire time. It goes away, and then it comes back because it's traveling in a flat circle across a flat plane. Next. There's no shortcuts on a flat Earth. That's why when you fly from Australia to Chile, it goes up to the northern hemisphere or into the northern hemisphere, across the United States and down, which makes absolutely no sense unless you look at it on a flat Earth. On the right, it's a straight line, and that's how all planes fly. Now, you will be able to find a couple of flights that say they do fly from there, but you can't book them, you can't fly them, and they don't exist. Next. This is a chart of all of the internet cables, communication cables. None of them go across the Southern Ocean because there is no shortcut on a flat Earth. We could dive into that deeper later. Next, NASA and their imagery. NASA is laughing at us with everything they show us. They've never done anything. There are no astronauts have been to space. There are no satellites. There is no space station. And we've never been to the moon, and we've never been into outer space because it's not what we think. Next, this is what they show us as imagery of the space station. We have the space shuttle connected to that. Think of the torques and the twists and, just by movement of humans pushing off the walls, this thing never breaks down. If it ever does break down, they go on a spacewalk in their clunky suit and they can fix it with a screwdriver. I mean, our cars break down here on a hot summer day or cold winter. This thing is up there getting beaten by heat and meteors and stuff. And if you think about a submarine, every compartment has a sealed door and hatches, and they have to be maintained all the time. But they're never fixing these. There are no sealed doors between the compartments in the space station. They're wide open doors. There's nothing to protect one part from the other, and people just assume that there are, but there's not. Next frame. Here's a shot of the Earth from 1969 versus a more recent shot. Doesn't make any sense. It's a cartoon. Next. The top shot is a clip from the recent transit of the moon across the Earth. Of course, the sun is directly behind us. It's a perfect shot. That's supposedly the backside of the moon. It's a total cartoon. The one on the bottom right is the shot when we were on the moon, but that's what the Earth looks like. The Earth is so much bigger than the moon. It should like the picture on the bottom left. Next. If we're on a ball Earth, when you're flying at cruising altitude, the plane needs to dip down every minute a substantial amount. Otherwise, it would fly off into space. The only way that wouldn't happen is if air is curved also. Otherwise, the plane is going to lift and just keep going, and it's going to fly into outer space. And that just doesn't happen, and the pilots do not go down because they're flying over a flat plane. Next. Satellites in space, are covered in tinfoil. There's 10,000 to 30,000 of them. They can't tell us how many. They always work. They don't break down. There's micrometeors out there, G-forces, plasma, gamma radiation, heat, cold, meteor storms, Van Allen radiation belt, electromagnetism, all sorts of stuff that should destroy these things, but they all survive. They're all fine. They don't melt. Next, the Hubble telescope doesn't exist. We've never seen a picture from it. It never turned towards Earth. It never took a picture of Earth or the moon. Go to the next picture. It's in the thermosphere that gets up to thousands of degrees. It should look like that, but it doesn't because it's not up there and it's fake. Next, the definition of irony is that all of the agencies that control the world, their logos have flat Earth maps. They're laughing at us, they're mocking us, and they're sticking it in our faces. Next. They love their numerology. The Earth has a 23.4 degree tilt. Subtract that from 90, 666. Next, here's Stanley Kubrick collaborating with NASA to fake the moon landings. We're in agreement with that. Next, we all remember the shuttle Challenger disaster. Well, that something blew up, but there was nobody on it, and all of these astronauts have identical twins still here on Earth with the exact same name as them now, all working for universities. You can look that up. There's videos that'll show you more about that. It's a complete and utter hoax. Next, research the flat Earth. Now, if you can play that video I gave you, this is the clincher for me. Chance, if you can play the video, what we're going to see now is around December 21st, when the sun is closest to the northern hemisphere. Let me know when that's up. I'm sure it's coming up. And somebody filmed what's called the midnight sun, and already the sun. Oh, okay, I can't see it. So what you're seeing is the sun going around the Earth, and it's doing a 360 around the Earth because it's so high up towards the northern pole that it's going around and around and around. So I can't see the video, but I assume you guys can. So has it gone around? You've seen it, you understand, and people say that's the proof that the Earth is a spinning ball, right? Okay. Yeah. So again, it's in the Tropic of Cancer. It's high enough up that they can see it around the horizon. The reason it's going up and down is because they're not exactly on the North Pole, so it's farther sometimes and it's closer, so it looks like it's higher and lower due to perspective. So the picture on the left, we're looking down at the North Pole, and the Earth is rotating counterclockwise, and that person is moving to the left and going down and moving to the right and coming back around, and you see the sun go all the way around. But that's not what you would see. Moving over to the right, I've taken the Earth and I've turned it on its side. I've turned it so you're looking across the top of the North Pole. And if you look at the guy on the top to the right, he's moving to the left from our point of view. He gets to the end and he would stop and then move back. So what you would see on a spinning ball Earth is the sun would be going left, stop, right, stop. It would be zigzagging left and right. It would not be going around you. You can't model it to go around you. It doesn't make sense. Put a ball in front of you, put the sun across the room, put yourself near the top of the axis on that ball and spin the ball around. The sun is not making circles around you. It's going left, right, left, right, left, right. Go to the last slide. This is what I call puddle theory. This is just a theory that I have. It may or may not be true. There may only be one place, but this infinite flat plane could have other capacitors orbiting around a magnetic north, melting other puddles, if I could speak. And this is where, if you believe in extraterrestrials, well, I call them earthly terrestrials. They're coming from thousands of miles away instead of millions and billions of incomprehensible light years. And that's all I have to say. The Earth is flat and does not move, and there is no proof otherwise that the Earth is a spinning ball. Jim, I did it in under 30 minutes. You were wrong.